get ready to embark on an economic journey as we unveil the heartbeats of the Rwandan business landscapes. This is the Business Age, your front row seat to the economic renaissance of the land of 1,000 hills. Join us as we traverse the bustling markets of Kigali, delve into the success stories of Rwandan entrepreneurs, and explore the dynamic forces shaping the nation's economy. From the boardrooms to the street vendors, we'll bring you the voices of the visionaries and the minds behind Rwanda's economic evolution. Discover the fusion of tradition and technology, witness the agricultural innovations transforming rural communities, and explore the cutting-edge innovations propelling Rwanda into a new era of economic prosperity. From the city lights to the rural landscapes, every business is a story waiting to be told. Hello there. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of The Business Age. Here on the African continent, about 600 million people face barriers in accessing the necessary healthcare. On today's episode, we'll look at the role of innovation, most importantly, health tech, in advancing the continent's journey towards achieving the universal health coverage. You'll be with me, Naringwa Fiona Mothoni. Africa has moved beyond being merely a consumer of technology over the years. We've seen innovation and technology becoming deeply integrated across all sectors, including healthcare.
The health tech space is becoming more and more vibrant, right? We're getting a lot of interest, a good number of innovators. The innovations are growing, amazing innovations that are actually solving problems in Africa. You know, we're no longer consumers of innovations. We're now innovators ourselves. And for us to have this sort of events right now in Africa, it just goes to show the interest, and not just interest, you know, the efforts of various stakeholders to see that innovations thrive, innovations are impactful, and that innovators get the support that they need to thrive in Africa. It's time for us to innovate for Africans. So it's Africans innovating for Africa. I'm very excited as to where we are right now, and there's, you know, great potential for what we can do as Africans in the short duration.
I think that is the only way. I see it as the only way to achieve the goals. I remember we had all kinds of projects. 2010, they shifted from 2010 to 2030, and it keeps shifting because technology has not been engaged. But with technology, more people can be reached. Hundreds of thousands of people have never gotten access to see even a doctor, how much more get care. But with technology, different people can actually, anybody who needs it can see a doctor. And without technology, it's impossible to achieve our target. So technology is actually the only way we can achieve our goals, and it's doing that quite rapidly.
It's changing everything. It's changing how we look at healthcare records. Essentially, at WHO, the first record which is valid for any patient record is the physical one. But at the pace of how digital health is taking over, I think in maybe less than 5 years, the first initial record would be now your digital footprint. You understand? Because as of this now, as this younger generation, the Gen Zs, the Gen Xs, which are younger, they have their records from immunization to wherever they are right now, all on a file. And not a physical file, but a digital file, which is accessible all over the world if they need be. So the way fintech and tech has changed is changing Africa. I think it's in a good place. And to be honest, I think Africa is in a very advanced stage, if you look at it, in accepting technology compared to any other continent. And we can only be hopeful and look forward to great outcomes, because that's what we're supporting. That's what we're pushing for, and I believe Africa is the next frontier in digital health.
Advancing healthcare in Africa requires significant innovation. We explore the current landscape of startups leading the way in health tech.
We have a lot of early stage innovations coming in. There's a lot of innovation hubs being set up at higher institutions. And so you're seeing now that, you know, students coming out from the university are also thinking about how can we innovate, what can we do, what businesses can we start. and how can we use technology to improve. And so we're seeing a good number of early stage and idea stage innovations coming in. But it's exciting to also see that beyond idea stage, we're also seeing growth stage innovators within the healthcare space. And I'd like to talk about LifeBank as one of the good examples of one stemming out of Nigeria. There's 54 Gene, there's Helium Health. There are several innovations coming out right now. And, we're very excited that in the near future, we can also be saying to ourselves that, we have, innovators here from Africa who are actually, reaching even beyond Africa, scaling beyond Africa to make impact across the globe. Yeah.
So EasyCare is a medical app that connects care seekers to care providers. So it works like the Uber app to connect care seekers to the closest healthcare providers to them. So when you book for a healthcare provider, it locates the closest care provider to you, and then you can connect. So it connects people to doctors, connects to nurses, to pharmacists, to lab scientists, and even to other medicines. So if you want to get a doctor, you just book, go to the specialty you want. We have about 36 specialties. They have different doctors. And the doctors have their different prices. So you can book for the one that fits your budget. And then EasyCare actually makes money from the commission that we make from the care providers. Now we have something that is so useful for the communities. Using the same model, we have the communities in mind. What we do is that we go to a community and give them one phone that they can use. The app is on that phone, and they can come to that central place to book for healthcare providers. The challenge, of course, in Africa and where we are in Nigeria and for the rest of Africa is access to healthcare. Difficult accessing healthcare. So some communities that have never seen a doctor in their lifetime, with the EasyCare app, they can be able to do a video consultation with a doctor. And then if many of them book for a doctor, the doctor can actually come physically to see them. About 35,000 downloads on the app. Yeah, and we have a usage of at least 40 consultations per day right now.
Protecting user data is essential. We look at the current practices in place for ensuring data security.
The question whereby governments come in with policy, standardization, regularization, and facilitation of now health tech innovators. How do you blend them to become very user-centered, led by the people, for the people, in one way or another? So that somebody can be in a small clinic, let me say in the north of Rwanda, and can access very good healthcare, whereby they understand what's going on with them, and their health records will be safe and secure. And let's say, just in case they end up traveling to the south of Rwanda in less than a week, and something happens to them, the healthcare provider in south of Rwanda can have access to that information and say, oh, I saw last week you had a mini ischemic episode and you've not been doing very well with your medication. That's the reason for X, Y, and Z. But let's say if this person, they didn't have the records in North Rwanda, this person goes to south of Rwanda, and you have to start all over again. Time is of essence in health. So the more time, anything could be negative outcomes.
Someone else would also ask around data regulation. If your records can be open and easily accessible, so then how do we navigate that whole space?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. When we say data regulation is very important, for example, your phone it has your own passcode, yes? You're the only one with access to it. So what we do in user-centered design is that, let's say for example, what we did in the IGAD region for mothers who had immunizations for their children. Mothers in the borders, for borders, they were drawn up by the people before. So the borders then, but they don't matter to the communities that live along the border. The mothers might go for to the market day on Tuesday in Tanzania, and on Thursday the market day is in Rwanda. You understand? To them there is no border. You understand? But they still need access to healthcare. So what we did is we gave them cards. These cards have NFC chips. So if maybe the mother is Rwandese, but she gave birth to a child in Tanzania, when she comes back to Rwanda, the child still needs immunization. So the Tanzanian clinic basically labels this child was born here on this date, and in that card, they update it on the card, they give the mother the card. The mother comes back to Rwanda, is going back for the 6-week immunization. She goes to the clinic, she presents the card, it's called a journey card. She clicks on the tab. The clinic, the healthcare worker in Rwanda sees, oh, you got BCG in Tanzania, you got this in Tanzania, you got this in Tanzania. Okay, good. We will update the record. We will give you the immunization for the next 6 weeks. So she is the one carrying her data in her pocket.
For this to be successful, heavy investment is needed. We look at the funding invested into some of the innovations bridging the healthcare gap by providing affordable, accessible care using digital solutions.
Because we're in our third year right now, for the first 2 years, we spent time uploading healthcare providers because it's healthcare provider based. Without the providers, you cannot, and verification of providers, regulations and all that. And we are comfortable right now. To build the app, it cost us about $50,000, and maintenance, funding, marketing, I would say we have run to about $250,000 to $300,000 so far that we have invested into it. As I've said, no funding. These are our own personal funds. And the revenue has started coming, but we are looking at the long term because it's based on the number of consultations we have. So, but steadily it has increased. Every month we have a higher turnover than the other. In the past 3 months, we virtually doubled our income. And hopefully in the next 1 year, we should double. In 2 years, we should quadruple. And in 5 years, I think we should be very fast.
Investor interest in Africa's health tech sector is steadily growing, and it's crucial that this investment remains focused on creating positive impact.
Over the last few years, we've continued to see increased investments into the health tech space. I would say that, initially investors were mostly skeptical. Again, from our interaction within this space, we also recognize that a lot of investors really don't understand the healthcare space. We're starting to see, a health-focused investments of firms, such as the health cap, that are driving investment directly into health startups. We also see multilaterals, global partners coming in to provide slow funding, right, to startups, because a lot of the time within the healthcare space, impact is what's important. In fintech, financial profits, a lot of investors, they're able to see that financial benefit within a short time. But within the healthcare space, you need to think about health impact alongside making profits. And sometimes slow funding is really needed to be able to help the startups move from that idea stage to actually coming up with a viable product, and then also being able to market and then make significant profits. And so for that, impact investors are actually very important. We also have Impact Investment Foundation working with governments and various stakeholders to galvanize funding for startups. And beyond that, we have the global funds, we have the Gavis also providing significant investment, slow funding that's required for startups to thrive. Again, we have high net worth individuals and other investment, platforms that are also beginning to see value in investing in healthcare. And I think the time is now. I believe that health tech is the next fintech.
Up till now, it's self-funded, no contribution, no funding from any investor. And I don't know whether it is the African thing that people don't usually look at Africa first. When it talks of the problem, they see us having the problems. But when it talks of the solutions, they prefer to put their money where they can get it back. I think I can understand that. But I think we are offering excellent solutions that not just will solve the problem, but will also have return on investment. Because investors will always be looking at the return. I think this has a lot of potentials to have return on investment. And the health tech industry will yield more return, even financially, to investors than the traditional methods. So, but right now I would say that we've not gotten any funding. We are hoping that when people get to know more about it and investors take a deeper look into this, look at our books, they can actually invest in it.
Yes, the next unicorn may just be coming from the health tech space. And I think investors should really, contribute at this point. In 2023, we had about over $160 million investment in Africa health tech startups. But while that is great compared to the previous years, that's a significant jump. However, we also noted that in comparison with the fintech, we had over $600 million. You can see that there's still a huge gap, and there's still opportunities for investors to come in from outside of Africa and within Africa to invest within the health tech space. Beyond, the Wall Street approach for really assessing health innovations generally or businesses, within the healthcare space, I think it's also very important that, beyond becoming unicorns, we're also celebrating impacts. How much impact our health innovators have in the space. And we know that what they need at this point is support, capacity building. And that's essentially why one of the things that CC Hub does. We try to close that gap in capacity building and then facilitate interactions and partnerships that actually allow innovators, including health innovations, to thrive. So that opportunity exists, but I would like to also see that we do not just focus on that, the financial gains that comes out from this, but we're also able to look at the health impacts, right? Today, over 600 million people, right, don't have access to healthcare facilities or healthcare services, right? Especially in our rural areas. Technology, especially the use of artificial intelligence, has the potential to reach the unreached and drive us further towards achieving universal health coverage by 2030. And I think one of the things that we can continue to celebrate is the fact that we're beginning to close the gap in numbers through the use of technology. We should always have the impact of health innovations as one of the ways that we also celebrate success within this space.
For innovations to lead in healthcare, a range of solutions is needed to address these specific challenges.
Government regularization it needs to be a bit more open, more healthcare worker prone, user center prone, healthcare patient prone, and allow innovations to take over, allow innovations to basically access. And as much as you can regularize them, but you need them to let them thrive and support them. Sustainability leads to the question of resource mobilization, resources that are available. How do you use the resources? Where do you use the resources? And that comes again back to governance. So I think the biggest question and the biggest answer is governance. If we answer the question of governance, then it becomes straightforward on how we can go ahead in digital health.
Thinking about health tech innovators in particular, there are a number of challenges. First of all, starting from the idea stage, because I like to always start there, you could have fantastic ideas and really not have the funding, right, to be able to develop that idea into, a tech solution. Capacity is a critical challenge as well. The workforce that we have at the moment, some of them have limitations, especially in having necessary tech skills to, produce some of the ideas that they have. So there's issue around capacity. Also, knowledge, again, capacity for even the founders and the innovators. Some of them lack business skills, right? They're unable to commercialize their product. They're unable to understand how to move this from just being a fantastic idea to making it a viable business. Investments, I'm sure when you sit with any startup and you say, what's your challenge? A lot of the time, financial challenges are also an issue. Assessing some of these funds are not as easy. You need to be able to show traction, right? Costing a lot of startups to actually bootstrap at the initial, using their own funding, building something, testing it out and all of that. If you're to assess impact funds as well, you need to be able to show significant impact. Research is required and a couple of other things. Moving away from funding, challenges with scaling across countries, regulations, right? Different countries seem to have, even if they have similar regulations, they require you to actually go through each of their regulatory processes. And so you'll find that for growth stage startup, scaling into other countries can be actually very, very challenging. Another challenge that you'll find with growth stage startups is that, just like we mentioned today, the government plays a critical role. In short, government is the major client for your tech business because they have the population, right? And if you really want to scale your business and ensure sustainability, government is one of the stakeholders that you definitely be considering. We've also, over the last few days and weeks, we've been talking about procurement systems within governments and how they can be, very discouraging, right, for startups to work with. And we're really looking forward to seeing how governments are able to look through their systems and processes and improve them in such a way that tech startups can actually benefit. But one of the critical things I'm also quite hopeful that we can start to review some more and work on coming out of this event is really looking at policies across countries, licensing, regulations for health tech startups, and to see how Africa CDC can play a central role in unifying what those processes might look like and providing a stamp, hopefully through the marketplace platform that has now been created, a stamp for startups that allows them to be able to easily scale across countries once they're able to go through Africa CDC's vetting and approval processes. That's something I'm really looking forward to, and I think can really help startups thrive and scale within Africa.
Health tech, it's funding. The ideas are there. I had the idea for several years. This EasyCare idea, I had it for a very long time, for up to 10 years. And but when I approached developers, they needed money to transfer my idea. So I had to start a hospital, run a hospital for some years, raise the funds to be able to start this. So the number one challenge is funding. Then secondly, recruitment, getting the right people who can see this as a passion. Because people are used to the traditional hospital, the traditional way of doing things. So when you bring up something like this here, how would it work? So even the people you recruit to work with you, they don't really have that passion because their eyes are elsewhere. We recruited doctors, and of course the problem of doctors in Africa is immigration. In Nigeria we call it the Japa syndrome. Nigerian doctors, they are hotcake everywhere. So they work with you for 1 year or 3 months or 6 months and then they are off there. So recruitment of staff is one challenge that we're having. But I think when people see the possibilities and the potentials that the health tech offers, we'll be able to retain more hands and it gets better. The regulation framework in Africa is still in the infant stage. So it has a good part, but also a negative part. The good part is that we are forming part of the policy, being the fact that we are the pioneers. We are also helping informing regulations as health tech will be practiced in the developing countries. The other side of it is that people are not used to it. Even the healthcare providers, those who have been in the establishment, who are leading the ministries, this is new to them. And the first response to something that is new is usually, oh no, it's negative. But gradually, being the fact that we are pioneers and we're involved in the policy making, they are beginning to see light to it. So anywhere people are startups, I would always encourage them to get involved in policy making because the main policy makers don't know so much about the health tech. It is the founders that actually know about it. And they are the best people to get involved in regulations and all.
I would say that there are challenges. Challenges exist with how people perceive how care should be provided to them, right? But in this age, if I may put it that way, almost every individual has a mobile phone, right? People are very much aware as to what can be done and can be achieved using a mobile phone. Brick and mortar methods, still valid, right? They are impactful in their own way. However, innovation is just something to build on top of it. We're not saying that the traditional approaches should be forfeited, essentially, but that technology is leveraged to reach even more people. As it relates to behaviors, that's something we definitely need to take into consideration. As an innovator, when you're coming up with solutions, it's not something you sit in a corner of the world and then design. You need to take into consideration who the end users are, what barriers exist with them. For some communities, it could be language barriers, right? Perceptions. You need to take that into consideration. And as you build your solution, you need to think about how can I solve for this problem so that it doesn't become a challenge that stops me from commercializing my innovation. And so there are projects and programs that require community awareness, right? That require, market access activities that require you to engage a bit more with stakeholders, create more awareness, then drive markets to your product. So yeah, awareness is very important. Technologies that help us to leverage some of the limitations as benefits. And I'll give you an example. With artificial intelligence, you may be able to also translate from one language to the other as you interact with people. So solutions like that take into consideration the cultural experiences of people, and then use that as an advantage, in ensuring that technology and innovations reaches people, is one that definitely should be encouraged. So yeah, challenges exist, but there are also opportunities for how we might address them.
The future of health tech in Africa is highly promising, with innovation poised to transform healthcare accessibility.
If you look at universal health coverage basically means that everybody has access to healthcare, affordable healthcare, quality healthcare. And if we are able to then achieve synchronized, regularized digital health infrastructure and standardizations across the continent, then anybody would then be able to get treatment. A Rwandan would be able to get treatment in Kenya with their health record that, this is the immunization record from Rwanda, this is where you are. You have type 1 diabetes, we're treating you for that in Kenya. They have this record, it's updated. You take your next flight, maybe you've gone for another conference, you're in Benin or Ghana, and you get food poisoning. They look at your health record, which you carry in your pocket. That would then be the Africa I would look at. That digital health has solved the problem for universal health coverage.
I think it's going to explode because people are seeing it. There's no other way. With the incoming of AI and all that, the talk of the day is AI. So even those who were not in it have gone to dust their books to see how they can catch up. So the next 5 years plus, I think it's going to be the in thing.
I think it's going to be a very evolutionary time for Africa, revolutionary time for Africa. I think it's going to be, the next 10 years is going to be an amazing duration within Africa. I'm hoping that we're going to see more innovations, become unicorns, like we said earlier, but also impactful innovations that help us move the numbers of mortality, morbidity, and all other indices away from what they look like right now. Across the globe, when we talk about health indices that are really poor, Africa seems to come up a number of times. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing those numbers drop significantly as a result of how we use innovations across these countries. I'm looking forward to seeing unified platforms and systems. Member state governments are all talking about digital interoperability, etc. And so I'm really looking to see how we can have unified infrastructures and systems within countries, but also across Africa. In addition to that, I'm hoping that we're able to better utilize data, right? Leverage artificial intelligence based on the huge amount of data that we have, and really develop solutions that take us further in our journey towards improving health outcomes for Africa.
There you've had it. Innovation and technology are very crucial in advancing and addressing to some of the pressing challenges facing the healthcare system here within Africa. Thank you for tuning in. You are with me, Naringwa Fiona Mothoni. Until next time, stay well.